Jonathan Gannon's out. Michael Bidwell actually did it. This is massive as we head into the offseason ahead of the 2026 NFL season. Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Cardinals, Alex Clancy here. First live show in years. This just couldn't wait. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen. Part of the #1 sports podcast platform now in Locked On. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. News dropped about an hour ago. Jonathan Gannon's out. Assuming that we're not going to see Nick Rallis and Drew Petzing either, for those that wanted the rational flush out of the current regime, you got it. There's so many questions now as to what the next steps are. Final segment, what does it mean for Kyler Murray? It's fascinating because I didn't think he was going to get fired, Jonathan Gannon, even though, conventional wisdom would lend you to think that he would. What does it mean for Kyler Murray? Second, what are the positives from last year? Okay? What are the positives from this past season? There were some, and I was going to talk about the game yesterday, but ain't nothing to talk about. The head coach is gone. So the interesting thing, as Jonathan Gannon is out, is say what you want about Michael Bidwell, and trust me, I've said plenty. I think he is not the best human being. We know by the ongoing allegations of things of workplace misconduct and all that stuff, but this is a football show, so I'm sticking to football. I didn't know that Michael Bidwell had this type of backbone. And you could mock that, sure, and say, well, it's a big deal firing a 3-14 head coach. Wow, real backbone. No. Let's look at the big picture here. There was 2 years left on his deal. Everybody loved him inside the locker room. And they're not going to draft a quarterback this year. So those three things, and the entire team was injured. So those three things would be like, all right, well, yeah, quote unquote, lame duck, sure. Coach for your job, sure. But he said, you know what? This is it. I'm sorry everybody was injured, but the way things happened down the stretch was undeniably unacceptable, especially for a defensive-minded head coach giving up 40 burgers left and right. And then 35, 37 points in other games. So there's going to be so much time to talk about who could be the next head coach. There are plenty of suitors. And I'll tell you what, after these playoffs, there may be more. Drop a 1 in the chat if you're surprised that he got fired. Not if you wanted him to get fired, but if you're surprised that Michael Bidwell actually fired him. Drop a 1 in the chat. Because here's the thing. I was shocked. Not because it's not warranted. Not because, everything was pointing to him being fired. And I get that. You're not giving Michael Bidwell all this credit for doing something that was seemingly easy to do. I get that. But also, there was one thing. Injuries, okay? That was it. So if that was strong enough, he would have come back. There was way too much other than that. Every metric guided this decision. Like truly, like every football metric. They put all this money into the defense. And while, one of my reasons or I guess excuses for why the defense wasn't playing well this year was because it wasn't one major wave of injuries where you have 5 guys out for 3 or 4 weeks. It was just every week it was somebody else to get any sort of momentum with the syncopation of, this guy out, then this guy out, then this guy back, then this guy out. It was difficult. But what I think, especially there's 6 head coaching positions open right now. Like outside of maybe Atlanta and Vegas with the #1 overall pick and Tom Brady, this roster, I don't know why this roster gets so much crap talked about it. I guess because of the wins and losses. But this just opens up so many more possibilities. And for those who don't know, Monty Ossenfort is staying pat, as well he should. Monty Ossenfort is drafted by the book better than we've seen in forever. And the injuries have it's been insane. But thanks everybody for hanging out. I haven't done a live full show in a while, but I just obviously this couldn't wait. You kind of feel bad for the guy. Sure, he'll land on his feet. He'll get a DC job somewhere and probably another head coaching job at some point. I think he was set up to fail in a situation as this. Every young, successful head coach in this league of late has had that Yoda or whatever, that old ass offensive or defensive coordinator who can kind of be their rock going into their first couple seasons. And Jonathan Gannon didn't have that. He had no safety net. And that's, choosing your own coaching staff, whatever, like sometimes arranged marriages are better with coaching staffs, especially for a first-time head coach. Doesn't matter what Jonathan Gannon did do for this team. And irrespective of record, irrespective of everything else, and the fact that he wasn't a very good head coach when it came down to it, you've got to give him credit for the shift in culture. And I know that this is something I've talked about so much that everybody's talked about. This isn't original to me. The dysfunction between the lines did not bleed anywhere else. And that's new. That's a new thing. Jonathan Gannon brought cohesion with this team that we hadn't seen in the last regime. He wasn't respected. Jonathan Gannon was. And regardless of how much and how far that will go, I don't know. It's just factual at this point in my humblest of humble opinions. And, I've already been asked, my phone's been blowing up. It's like, well, why did you fire him mid-season? Didn't have to. Didn't have to. And maybe I was wrong. Maybe Michael Bidwell didn't know. I thought that he knew week 11, week 12, he was bringing him back. It's like, well, listen, let's just limp to the finish line here. Hopefully nobody gets hurt even more than they already are. And, we'll run it back fresh. Maybe the 40-burger punch and the 40-burger punch of Seattle and the 49ers and then Houston. And then, the Rams put up 37. It's like, geez, where's the fight? Regardless of who's hurt and who's not. The Jonathan Gannon tenure will be looked at as a failure. And it should. I also guaranteed they beat the Titans. That's true. Good call, Sean. You want my condo? It's not very nice. What he did outside the lines is something that you can take away from this as kind of a consolation prize. What this roster will look like, what everything else will look like, that's something that we will discuss later. There's so many things that you can be, we just got to kind of sit in this for a second because this opens up everything. This opens up quite literally everything. I did not see this coming. I did not think Michael Bidwell was going to pull the trigger. And I did not think that we'd be sitting here on Black Monday and say, wow, the Cardinals are going to be in the coaching carousel search again. Here we are. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. We'll kind of see where the chips fall. I will be discussing so many more storylines in depth this week. But there's only so much you can do in a 28-minute show. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. What were the positives from 2025 that actually have longer lasting effects as a new coaching staff comes in? I'll discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by Drip Drop. Kicking off the year feeling good is the goal, right? And honestly, hydration is the easiest win. When I stay on top of it, my energy, focus, and mood all level up. But let's be real. Plain water doesn't always cut it, especially when you're grinding through long days hitting the gym or just trying to stay consistent with your health goals. And that's where Drip Drop comes in. Doctor-developed, proven fast hydration that helps your body and mind work better, think clearer, focus better energy, elevated mood, and even that fresh skin glow. I've been using Drip Drop. I just got a pack sent to me. Been using it every day. It helps with my daily routine. It gives me that hydration boost I need, especially right in the morning. Right now, Drip Drop is offering podcast listeners 20% off your first order. Go to dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's dripdrop.com, promo code LOCKEDONNFL for 20% off. Stock up now at dripdrop.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. NFL. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by PrizePicks. When you're, starting a new routine and, maybe just jumping into player projections for the first time, try something new can feel like a challenge. But with PrizePicks, it feels good to be right. And with high-pressure football matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never slows down, and PrizePicks lets you stay in control. PrizePicks is the daily fantasy app that makes watching sports even more exciting by letting you build lineups based on player projections, no drafts, no waiting. Just pick more or less and be on your way. Now, early payouts feature is a game changer. Say you're 4 out of 6 correct and you want to cash out early and not worry about the final 2 being right to actually make some cheese. You can do it at PrizePicks. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. All right, man. Jonathan Gannon out. I mean, I think the next head coach needs to be more vocally and physically intimidating. I'm not saying, Jonathan Gannon's a small guy. No, I'm just saying, stoic, not next. I want a screamer. I want a guy who yells. I want a guy who's demonstrative. I know that's not what makes a great head coach. It's just something that is a trend, or it's not a trend. It's a mindset setter. Yeah, we'll see. So much to talk about with that. What are the positives from 2025 that actually matter? Trey McBride, positive that actually matters. Okay. He is who we thought he was. He's incrementally gotten better and better to that all-pro level that we expect, or that we hoped he would be after ridiculously being drafted by the Cardinals in the second round a handful of years ago when they had so many other needs. And then I'm working out the last gift from Stevie Baby, and he's been the best thing to happen to the Cardinals from the draft in a while. Okay, so that's long-lasting. That's the obvious one. I think Paris Johnson Jr. had a very good year. When you don't have competency on the left side of the offensive line, you're done. You're screwed. And he's been well better than competent. I think the left guard play has left things to be desired this year. I said it, going to the draft last year. Gray Zabel should have been the guy. Hopefully Walter Nolan's all world, so I could eat my words. But Gray Zabel and Paris Johnson on the left hand of the offensive line, on the left side of the offensive line, would have been chef's kiss. Not the case. I think Paris Johnson, long-lasting. Will Johnson, this one is a little trickier. It's still a bunch more TBD. And the only reason I'm giving him a massive out here with the injuries and stuff, I know he missed time in college, but sometimes, and this is just anatomy, okay? Sometimes it takes younger guys a little bit longer to build up the calluses of the NFL game, to learn how to play and how to train your body to be healthier and to play through things maybe you weren't playing through before. And I may be completely wrong, but what Will Johnson has shown this year is so much promise to be that bona fide CB1 the Cardinals have desperately needed. He's shown promise. And yes, down the stretch, it was a little rougher than when the pass rush existed. But Will Johnson, promising, very much so for the future. And honorable mention, I guess, Walter Nolan. The games he played, he was a game wrecker in the interior. He's so quick. He's so fast. He's got the twitch that the Cardinals need to counteract the big bodies on the interior. But, he missed the majority of the season. So that's an honorable mention for me. Josh Sweat. This was looked at as, they could have went and signed Milton Williams for $100 billion. Josh Sweat, that was a team-friendly deal. He got his money, 12 sacks this year. What more do you want? He played very well with a pass rush that didn't exist outside of him and Calais Campbell for the first half of the season. Long-lasting, at least through next year. And you hope into the future. And, this is the tough part. Michael Wilson? Question mark? The difficult thing about this is the numbers were there in 2025. After week 5, he had 52 receiving yards through 5 weeks. Quarterback change, then he goes nuclear. Not having Marv helps with targets, but you can't fake it. The question is, what is the mathematical equation for garbage time numbers converted to a close game numbers? It needs to be studied. Somebody, one of my smart viewers or listeners, get on that, will you? I need an equation that I can just punch in with my big dumb face, be like, hey, okay, these were garbage time. Then what does that mean for real numbers? And what is the actual, like, synthesized number like for production for a wide receiver? What would that look like? Because what Michael Wilson did, irrespective of if it was during garbage time or not, produced. He did what everybody wanted Marv to do in the way they wanted Marv to do it. Alpha, go get it, acrobatic catches, runs every route. A lot of Michael Wilson haters, like for me, I didn't know. Going into this season, he was a question mark. He's like, well, I've said I think they have enough at wide receiver. Lo and behold, I'm now talking about that with Marv and not Michael Wilson. Going into the season, I'm like, they've got enough with him and Greg Dortch. Greg Dortch has been on IR for a while. But if there's an offense that can, that can set the table and facilitate for those guys, the Cardinals have enough. And Michael Wilson showed that. But what does it mean garbage time-wise with not garbage time? And unfortunately for the Cardinals, the majority of the season has been garbage time. Jacksonville, it wasn't. He had big numbers. Atlanta wasn't. He had good numbers. So he's going to get an extension. He 100% should get an extension. And luckily, being, a third-round pick, so there's 1 year left on a deal. He's making just over $1 million. He's making $1 million and change. Get ahead of it. Rip that contract up, restructure whatever it is, and extend it. You got your dude for the next 3 years or whatever it is. And then you'll see with Marv. At this point, it doesn't matter where the production comes from as long as there's production. And then the positive for 2025, I know the losing kind of overshadows and clouds this. Jacoby Brissett played damn well. He played damn well. He is not, by any stretch, even close to the top 3 or 5 reasons the Cardinals lost all those games. Not even close. He's the reason why they were kept in them. The offensive line was bad. Jonah Williams on the right side has been on IR forever. Will Hernandez has been out. Evan Brown's been out. It was Josh Fryer the last couple of weeks with Paris. Out. Yalta Frolt is the only, the stable spine of this offensive line. Jacoby Brissett has stood back there and took so much punishment delivering. Throw over the middle for completion. Throw over the middle for completion. Deep balls on 3rd and 20 that were unfathomable to be converted with Kyler Murray. Like, I'm not saying that Jacoby Brissett's a better quarterback than Kyler Murray. What I'm saying is the offense looked better with Jacoby Brissett. That's it. That's all I've been saying. And there's no world where Michael Wilson has these numbers if Kyler Murray's the quarterback. Well, that's not fair. Marvin Harrison Jr. has been out. They've had 3 years. Michael Wilson has been an afterthought in this offense. And then now he gets the opportunity with the quarterback who can huck it down the field, and now he thrives. Let's not be simple-minded here. I'm not saying you are. Let's just not be. Use your eyes. Jacoby Brissett has unlocked Michael Wilson's career. Jacoby Brissett has heightened Trey McBride's career, and that's not taking anything from Kyler. He was getting those targets anyways. Not the touchdowns, but the targets. Depth of target was a little bit different. And I see in the chat, don't forget to mention that they changed the play calling and started throwing it more when Kyler was benched. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they changed the play calling when Kyler Murray was benched? Why? It's not because James Conner and Trey Benson were out. It's because Jacoby Brissett can throw so many more types of passes that Kyler Murray cannot. It's just factual. They didn't change the offense. They were able to expand it. Expansion of an offense is not changing an offense. It's not changing play calling. It's having more words in the dictionary to be able to utilize. That is a clear distinction. They didn't change the offense. Oh, finally, Kyler Murray, let's call bad plays for Kyler Murray so he gets benched. And then, oh, Jacoby's coming in. Let's call all the good plays for Jacoby. Come on. So looking into 2026, yeah, if you run it back with Jacoby Brissett, Trey Benson's healthy, maybe you bring in a running back like Rico Dowdle. There are a bunch of dudes. Javonte Williams, like, if you bolster this offensive line, you bring back, like, you don't need a star. There are like 3-star running backs who carry who carry everything. Devon Achane, Christian McCaffrey, and Bijan. Sure, I'm missing somebody, but I mean, even Jahmyr Gibbs, even though he's taken more than David Montgomery this year, like, you need 2 dudes. You need it doesn't matter who's back there, run the same play calls. I'm happy to run it back with Jacoby Brissett next year. It could be so much worse, and that's not like a reason to bring him back. See you, Kev. But he's a positive going into 2026 that he's on the roster. And listen, this has been a bad year by pretty much every metric. That doesn't mean that there aren't a couple roses in the dust storm that the Cardinals are going to be able to, use as the foundation for next season. With all that said, though, what does this mean for Kyler Murray? There was a report out that Kyler Murray could potentially come back if they fire Jonathan Gannon. Yikes. The first part happened. What happens with Kyler Murray? We'll discuss. I will discuss. You can discuss amongst yourself. I will discuss what that looks like and what the potentials are next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by BetterHelp. The new year doesn't require a new you, maybe just a less burden you. We all carry things that weigh us down or hold us back, and therapy can help you identify what those things are by offering an unbiased perspective to better understand your relationships, motivations, and emotions. And that's where BetterHelp comes in, making it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist who can help you work through what's holding you back. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's pressure, maybe it's, stress you put on yourself like I do to, be a perfectionist and try to always do things better and maybe not give yourself the grace or credit when you actually do something well. There's so many different reasons why people use therapy, but BetterHelp makes it easy to get matched online with a qualified therapist. Sign up to get 10% off at betterhelp.com/lockedonnfl. That's locked on. Sorry. That's betterhelp.com/locked on. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by the Game Time app. The NFL season is over, but just beginning for 14 teams. And there's nothing better than being at the game. And maybe it's not a Cardinals game. Maybe you're a fan of a different team also, or your family member is, your significant other, and you want to go to a game. The issue is when buying tickets, especially playoff tickets, long queues, dealing with logins, watching prices skyrocket right at checkout. That's where the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing NFL tickets and its experiences in just a few taps. All the fees up front. Nothing changes. You see the price, that's what you're going to be paying. There isn't anything that skyrockets at the end. Knowing tickets are backed by the Game Time guarantee gives real peace of mind. Take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today and get back to being there live. All right. Thanks everybody for hanging out. People have been asking for more live shows. This one, it was, necessary. We'll be doing the squad show on Wednesday and Friday of this week with Jamil Douglas, Ben Garcia, and myself during the offseason. We'll be doing it twice a week during the week as opposed to on the weekends. What does this mean for Kyler Murray? I'm going to keep this short, okay? This isn't something that we're going to prognosticate on today. There's just so many things. It's something that, this is so new. This is so fresh. And I'm not surprised that Jonathan Gannon was fired. I'm surprised that Michael Bidwell actually did it. So what that does is it unlocks all of the possibilities that have kind of been in the background and not as much as like, oh, well, he's going to get fired 100%. Let's look at the next coaching staff that's coming in. For me, it's like, well, what coordinators are going to come in? I talked about that on the squad show last night. It's like, what coordinators are they bringing in for Jonathan Gannon? Because I thought 100% they were doing one more year on the on the heel or on the foundation that they're not going to draft a quarterback, so you can do one more year with Jacoby Brissett and Jonathan Gannon. What does it mean for Kyler Murray? Josh Weinfuss, Arizona Cardinals writer for ESPN, long time, does great work. He was sourced as saying that there's a, quote, outside chance. He was heard rumblings that there's a, quote, outside chance that if Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenfort were fired, so Monty Ossenfort's back, so that's the one differentiator between the two. If both of them were fired, there's an outside chance they run it back with Kyler Murray in 2026. So Monty Ossenfort's still here. He will not be fired. Jonathan Gannon obviously is gone. What does it mean for Kyler Murray? What does it mean? There are plenty of quarterback-hungry teams out there. Is Kyler Murray with a new offense better than Jacoby Brissett with a new offense? I don't know. Probably not. I think it's time. And it sucks, and it's time. I could eat my words later. I don't know. We haven't seen the football maturation that you'd hoped you'd see through 7 years. And I know, this one and 2 years ago were, half seasons, and this one was, far less than half a season. I think it's going to be difficult to sell to the offensive skill position players Kyler Murray coming back from what we've seen. I know that he won more games in 5 weeks than Jacoby Brissett did in the other 12 and 13 with the bye, obviously. I know that. I just think it's time. And on top of this, from the business sense, his stock will never be higher than this offseason. I'm not saying because, they need it to be. I'm not saying because there's a bunch of quarterback needy teams. What I am saying is this is an historically bad quarterback draft, and there are a bunch of teams that need a quarterback. So when people say you can't get a first-round pick for Kyler Murray, I think all things considered, that's probably true. But the market dictates what Kyler Murray's worth. So if there are 3 or 4 teams, the Browns, the Jets, teams like that need quarterbacks and have a bunch of picks, and maybe they want to be a little loose with one of them for a first rounder, you take it. And I see in the comments back and forth, like it's hate for Kyler Murray. It's love for Jacoby Brissett. It's love for Kyler Murray. It's hate for Jacoby Brissett. Like, this is not an exact science. Okay. This is not, I struggle with this, trying to really get through what actually is best for this team. And the only thing that I saw with my 2 eyes this year and last year was this offense looked significantly more potent without a run game with Jacoby Brissett over Kyler Murray. I just saw that with my eyes. That is not glazing. That is not talking one guy up and talking another guy down. I am looking at these things with my eyeballs, and that's what it's telling me. So what that makes me think is Jacoby Brissett threw for over 3,000 yards in 12 games. This offense had verticality that it hadn't had. And there was no run game, and the offensive line was bad. And to the offensive line's credit again, over the last month, outside of yesterday, they look pretty good. But I'm not saying Jacoby Brissett's perfect. I'm 100% not saying he's a career backup, because he started significantly more games than what a career backup looks like. And I'm also not saying that Jacoby Brissett is the best option out there in its entirety for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is Jacoby Brissett brings a stable force back there that other teams would yearn for. And I'm not saying that's I'm not saying that it's the best option. I'm also not saying that Jacoby Brissett is a better quarterback than Kyler Murray. What I'm saying is, and I'll give an analogy, and I've given this before, Jacoby Brissett is Michael Wilson. Kyler Murray is Marvin Harrison Jr. The ceiling for those guys is higher for sure. But if you want a metronome guy, a guy you can rely on every down, by and large. Jacoby Brissett is a better option than Kyler Murray. If you want a guy that can bring you back down 17 going into the fourth quarter, Kyler Murray. So there's not a right answer here. It's varying degrees of what's good enough. And that's not like a sad thing. It's like, look around the NFL with how many bad quarterbacks there are, truly. The Cardinals could be in much worse shape. What does it mean for Kyler Murray? We don't know yet, obviously, but I still, man, it's going to be difficult to sell to the skill position players, especially the wide receivers and Trey McBride, on bringing Kyler Murray back after what we saw with Jacoby Brissett, irrespective of if it was during chunks of garbage time or not. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. Jonathan Gannon out. What does it mean moving forward? I have no idea what the hell is going to happen, man. What I do know is, without a shadow of a doubt, I will be with you every day. We will break through this. We'll break this down together. And thanks for hanging out with the live show. Remember, without you, there is no me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.